Okay, well, I think we'll get going. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this relatively short notice session. The intent of today originally was just to give you a walkthrough of the consultation on the cross-party service desk approach model that was shared with everyone last Monday. Following the issue of that consultation, along with the operational readiness test approach and the service management operating hours, came aware that obviously there was a few concerns immediately about the content of the pack. So we reached out via the Energy Networks Association Commercial Operating Group chair and had a discussion with some of you last Thursday morning to really understand those concerns. And then off the back of that, we've taken that away, had a few more bilateral conversations with people, but made some red line changes to the CPSD doc that was issued for consultation. And basically what we're hoping to do this afternoon is walk through the changes we've made so far, have a conversation about whether they've addressed the concerns or if there's anything else we need to do, and then hoping we can all reach a place where we're comfortable. We're looking to reissue the CPSD model consultation tomorrow with an extended consultation date to the 28th of April. Current assumption is this mainly impacts the CPSD itself, but does not alter the overall model or impact other industry parties. We're obviously looking, as we said, at GLIC on Friday, assessing whether this has any impact on the ORT dates or not, but we're not in the position to answer that question just as yet. So that's our intent for today. Hopefully we can have a really engaging and open conversation about the document and the changes that have been made. Definitely looking forward to getting some feedback from you all. With that, I think, is John on the call from the programme? So if you're just going to put some context about the previous, how this fits into previous discussions.
Yeah, just bear with me, Royce. Yeah, so I've been sort of supporting Helix over the last couple of weeks on the service management. Also, we've got some feedback around. I think particularly in my view, it was more around the sort of the wording and the terminology used in the crosscode. The crosscode document that Helix sent out. So we did have, following the workshop we had last week with participants, we did have some further sessions with some representatives from LDSOs, and Helix have subsequently updated the documents. So I think from a program point of view, you know, that document is in line with the service management strategy, which the program produced in February 2024, which talked about a distributed service management model that relied on different service desks, particularly those that were managed by central parties. So that's primarily DCC. It will be obviously Elexon, but there are others as well, such as EES, and obviously then there's individual participants, so LDSOs, suppliers, agents, you know, who'll be operating their own service capabilities, and will also need to interact as users into those central desks. So Royston, that's sort of my overview. What was there anything else you were looking for from a program point of view, or? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to get myself off mute there. No, I think that covers it, John. I just wanted that bit of context about the strategy that was set out last year, and yeah, how we built into this. So I guess from there it's on to Ian and Mark, who will talk through the changes that we've made to the document and start to get the feedback.
Yeah, so Andrew, do you have the document, or would you prefer me to share my screen? Do you have it ready?
No, I've got it. I can share.
Oh,
2
brilliant!
seconds.
Thank you. So this version was, or the updated version, 0.6. Oh, it's redlined on yours. It's blue lined on mine. This was the version that was sent out as part of this meeting invite, and we'll kind of focus on the changes that have been made following conversations last week. And as Royston has mentioned, the consultation date has been extended by a week as well. And should there be any kind of further comments or feedback, we'll look to get things updated and get a fresh version out to people. Does anybody have any questions before we start? Yeah. Hi, Ellen.
Hi. Yeah, you mentioned that it's been extended by a week. There haven't been any communications to industry to say that. I know it came up at GLIG on Friday, but a large number of us don't attend that. Is there going to be an email to all of industry to confirm that?
I'll take that, Mark. Yeah, the intent is, I should have gone into that. There's a slide for the end of this session, which would effectively set out the next steps, and the next steps are taking the comments from today and assuming they're manageable to reissue the document along with a notification of the extension tomorrow morning.
Thank you. And I take it it's the whole consultation, not just part consultation, because it's obviously got the
That's
operational readiness testing in the consultation as well.
That's correct. Only
Cool.
this document's changing, but the whole consultation will be extended.
Cheers. Thanks.
David, hi.
Hi, Mark. Hi, all. Just a quick one. The meeting is entitled LDSO Cross-Party Service Desk Session. Is that still the case? Because obviously I'm aware there's quite a number of people on here, and I'm doubting they're all from LDSO. So which is probably fine, but I just want to set your expectations have things moved on, or were you only expecting LDSOs on this call?
I think it was due to the feedback from the LDSO community. I think initially, Royston, wasn't it, that this was set up, and I think the invite was just extended to the participants more widely.
Yeah, I had expected personally this call to be just LDSOs, but
Yeah,
you know, that's not, you know, we can work with that and it's not a problem. But the idea was to, you know, it maybe calls into question whether we use the meeting that's currently planned on Wednesday, I believe, which was expected to be the wider audience. So
yeah, because obviously, spoiler alert, I'm reasonably privy to what's coming next, which might not be hugely exciting for people who are not LDSOs. Maybe it will be, but let's see. I suppose that's all I was trying to say.
thank you.
I think it'd be very exciting, David.
Okay, very good.
I set myself up for a fall there, haven't I? Okay, so do you want to just start scrolling through, Andrew, to the first section? So as kind of John mentioned, a lot of it is around kind of the language and the wording we use. If you want to keep scrolling down, I think it's a little bit further down. It's just before section 1.5. There we go, 1.4. Yeah. So we can see there, and obviously this is the version of the document that's already been sent out. There's some clarification in there around the fact that the strategy defines service desk and help desk models, and it's referring to both service desk and help desk, because I think that was an area of language that was causing concern, excuse me, for a number of people with the kind of the mixing of that language. And just a point of clarification up there about currently LDSOs operating the help desk model within the kind of legacy arrangements. Does anybody have any comments on that particular section?
No, Mark, but I'll just help call out as well that the other point that has been addressed just out of sight at the top there is the description of core service providers.
Yes, you're right, yeah.
As well, which you know, we recognise that although the LDSOs support a core service, none of them are entirely a core service provider. So they're individual organisations which feed into a service that is used.
Indeed. Hi, David.
Hey all. So purely for the benefit of, well, mostly for the benefit of my sort of LDSO colleagues on the call and indeed others who are interested. What we're trying to say here is, as an LDSO, we operate sort of two distinct functions, and hopefully this is sort of common knowledge. Hopefully it is certainly amongst the LDSO community and hopefully amongst the wider community. So we operate a help desk function, which is what I would call sort of business queries, MPAN level queries. There's a problem with an MPAN. It's not in the correct state. It's got incorrect attributes. Something's not right. It's not technical. It's just data related generally. And that's generally dealt with by what we call the MPAS help desk, which is an interaction between suppliers and agents and ourselves to fix those sort of single MPAN issues. It doesn't, obviously not solely single MPANs, but typically it's at that kind of level. Then on top of that, we operate a proper sort of technical service desk, which is for technical issues and failures. Now, the crucial point to make here is the service desk is internal to our own organisations. They're not externally facing. However, the help desk, the MPAS help desk, is externally facing. And that is what we wanted to point out here. It's quite possible that the help desk we run will interact with our own service desk, where there's an issue that perhaps it needs a technical fix on MPRS or needs some sort of technical support. And again, within our organisations, we will facilitate that. But the crucial point, again, just to reiterate, is, which I don't think was clear in the original document, is our service desk is internally facing. Our help desk faces off to our own service desk, but also to the outside world in terms of those sort of MPAN queries.
Okay, thanks, David. Any? Oh, Patricia, hi.
Hi, apologies, I haven't read through all the document yet. So, David, if, say, for example, we get a pub message that's come from the registration service that really shouldn't have come to us, or the data is spurious, let's say, where would that go to?
Well, in theory, you shouldn't get something that shouldn't come to you, because the DIP rules, the routing rules should prevent that. Hopefully, yeah. So hopefully that shouldn't happen. But if you've got more of a data issue, so you think you've got a valid message, you've processed it, but actually your system, doesn't like the outcome, shall we say, or it seems erroneous, then my understanding is if it's sort of valid, you should then contact, a bit like you do if there's a DTN issue today or a D-flow problem, come to our help desk and say, we've received this update, we don't think it's right. And obviously this works two ways. It can be a two-way conversation. We don't think this is right. Can you have a look at it? And I think that's, and again, forgive me, I'm not super close to the operational processes, but my understanding that's done via a combination of email, STEP, and possibly even just sort of ad hoc phone calls now and again. It's sort of broadly speaking, an offline process. So that would persist today. And if it was then required, it was deemed that a sort of a technical issue or some sort of technical failure occurred, and depending on whose problem, whose sort of not so much fault, I suppose, if it was because MPRS had done something wrong, shall we say, we might end up speaking to our service desk who would help fix that. I mean, there's many flavors of that, but in that scenario, I think the initial, if it was sort of valid data, valid message, the DIP and everything had worked as expected, then the data element will be picked up by the help desk function.
Okay, I can get that. Okay, so from my perspective, we're a third-party service provider, and it's actually our systems that are interacting with the registration service via the DIP and so on and so forth. So we don't use STEP at the moment. I don't think we use any of the help desk. Would you therefore expect that to come from the supplier, or would we be able to have access to provide that information to yourselves? Or do I need to take this offline?
Good question. That's a very good question. And I don't know, because this is new. So I don't know what the expected design is there. In that scenario, Mark and Royston and Andrew, what are your thoughts in that scenario?
Sorry, John. Go on.
It's John here.
Sorry, John. Yeah.
So Patricia, are you talking about you interacting directly with LDSOs, or are you talking about interacting directly with the Lexon help or service desks?
Well, I know we can interact directly with the Lexon service desk because we can set up our usernames and so on and so forth. So I'm fine with that. And there's a lot of discussion going around about how that's going to work. What I'm saying is, from this perspective, we at the moment don't interact directly with the help desk. And given the
No,
fact
so
that,
that'd be something that you'd need to agree. There would be nothing stopping you acting on behalf of the supplier as
Yeah.
a contracted agent, but you would have to agree that with the suppliers to be able to gain access to their their STEP, or or be able to act under their sort of auspice, if you like. But that would be a commercial agreement between yourselves and the suppliers that you worked on behalf of.
Well,
because you would be then acting as the supplier in that context. So you would be you would be operating under the supplier's banner, if you like.
yeah, John, can I take this offline? Because I think it's probably going to need a bit more of a conversation. Is that okay? I don't want to prolong the
Yeah,
session.
but I think just to close that discussion, though, I think what this is effectively saying here is, as David said, is that the existing LDSO help desk will remain as is, so it'll continue to operate the same working day hours. It will continue to use the same means of communication, so which are traditionally STEP, email, and telephone. And so, there's no change there, Patricia. That's a core part of this. Is that,
I appreciate
is
that.
that
Totally agree. But I think it's now, because of the fact that the registration services now come into play as a new actor, it's how does that interaction happen? So, yeah, I don't want to prolong the conversation. Yeah, if we just take it offline, then we can work out what that potentially will look like. If that's okay.
Yeah. But I think,
Thank
as I
you.
say, that would be, that would be you guys acting on behalf of the supplier. But obviously you would need to agree then that you had access, for example, to the supplier's STEP, to be able to utilize that system. There's no, I don't think would be any ability for, under REC governance for, for ESG, for example, to have their own STEP portal. It would, it's MPID based effectively, isn't it? So you would have to be using the supplier's service, if you like, to use that as a means of interaction.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if there are no further questions on this particular section, I think the next section with some changes in, Andrew, is section 2. I think this is more around the kind of the cross-party service desk principles. That's it. Yep. And again, a lot of this, as has been talked about, is kind of a correction of language to kind of provide a little bit more clarity for people, and especially around the kind of the central service provider, as Royson touched on earlier, and then kind of the service desk and help desk functions being named as appropriate. And again, to kind of reinforce the last point as well, the LDSOs will not operate the external service desk functions for suppliers and agent queries. They're going to continue to operate as they currently do onto existing SLAs. Okay, I'll leave it open for questions for a second, then could just move on, Andrew, if that's okay. And again, so it's following down the high level principles. Once again, a language change here when we've moved it from federated to distributed. It's just to provide that clarity and keep that language in line with the service management strategy. And again, you can see in points BC, when raising a case, we've added a query into that as well. And we'll start talking about the triage elements. Again, this is a lot of corrections on language and a little bit more clarity provided. For example, you see in section CC, where we've kind of expanded on some of the Elexon services like DIP, VAS, MDS, ISD. And again, this is just to try and provide a little bit more clarity for people so they could understand some of the elements that we were referring to. Anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. Do you want to just move on, Andrew? I think section 5 is the kind of the other kind of main one that's got the changes in. That's around the service desk and help desk. And again, this is around kind of the definition. So the main change here you'll see is the second one down. which is the LDSO service desk, which has been changed. We've got the owner, service provider, and then just a section now on kind of covered query types that we've run through, and then LDSO help desks text as well has been updated again, just to provide a little bit more clarity for people on the roles there. And again, we're kind of using both service desk and help desk here, whereas I think in the past the terms have been used interchangeably. Okay, no further comments. I think section 7 is probably the last section to have any changes in, and it's fairly kind of minor change. Again, text around service desk, help desk, and then it's just asking for each industry participant to nominate to elect on the contact information for their organisation, so case can be assigned to that contact. So I understand that this document, you've not exactly had kind of weeks to review before this call. There aren't a massive changes. I'm kind of hoping that some of the narrative that both David and John have provided gives a little bit more background as to the changes that we've made, and the changes they're not particularly material. A lot of it is language and clarification. And as Royston said, we are looking to extend. Well, we are extending the consultation period by a further week anyway. We just really wanted to get this document in front of people as quickly as we could, and then give people the opportunity to raise any questions, which I can see 2 hands straight up. Hi Neil, how you doing?
Hi Mark. What's the new date then, please? What will be the new date?
Sorry, Royce, are you able to advise? I haven't got my calendar open in front of me. Sorry.
It's the 28th of April.
Is that 2 weeks tomorrow, Royce? Like,
Bear in
I
mind
believe so. Yeah.
Bear in mind there are 2 bank holidays coming up.
Yeah.
The 28th of April is a Monday.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
It's a 6-day extension, and we were bearing in mind feedback we'd had about the bank holidays as well in making that decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, David.
Well, again, so just a quick question, just on the last bit where it says assigned to that contact. My assumption was it wasn't an individual. It could be or more likely it will be a generic mailbox for a service function within an organisation, because single points of failure, if you start assigning it to one person, if it goes to a central mailbox, then it's typically will be triaged and handled internally that way. Is that, I'm just checking that's not changed.
We'll get that changed, David.
Yeah, because I mean, some organisations it may be an individual, but I appreciate perhaps the larger ones it's going to be a mailbox with multiple people having access at different times and running different shifts.
Even if it's an individual, the organisation would very likely have people that are covering in absence and that kind of thing, aren't they? So that's we'll get that updated.
Just confirm that is it could be a mailbox. Thank you.
Hi, carry on.
I was just going to actually say what David said, but I guess the second part to that is the information with regards to the organisation. What timeline are you guys working to obtain that information from us?
Is this on the contact details and that kind of thing?
Yes, yes.
Well, we have asked for this information previously. We have had replies from people already, so we are going to have a fresh push on that now. So you really, I guess the answer is as soon as possible, and we will send out a link to the form again as part of this pack to gather that information.
If you could do that, that would be really useful, because I'm sure that things have changed from when we first represented that information. So yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. We'll get that done.
Thank you.
Hi, Ellen. How are you doing?
Hello. On the 2nd of April, when we first started going through the service desk interactions work, and it could be that this is something that you're doing on Wednesday, I'm just trying to figure it out, but you went through the start of a process in terms of the interactions, and appreciate on that call, that's where the LDSO points came up. So is that what you're looking to do on Wednesday, and go back and re-review that process in terms of the interactions and where the responsibility lies? Handoff.
No, it's not. It's not, to be honest. I think the intention today was to, following the calls at the back end of last week, was to present, because a lot of the concerns were coming from the LDSO community, were to present back the changes we'd made initially. And I think as to kind of Royston's point earlier, I think we'd expected a different audience on Wednesday. So this was presented to the wider participants. So it is to kind of present this updated document with the track changes into that wider community.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a shame because I thought, working through some of those example sort of scenarios was really helpful. It brings it to life. So is there an option to do that another time then?
Absolutely, Ellen. So myself and Ian have got literally in the last half an hour or so, I've had an email through to the people that are pulling the scenarios together for a catch up with us tomorrow morning. I think 11. So as soon as we've pulled those together, we will be reviewing those and then kind of engaging further to kind of step through those ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's Ian.
Sorry.
It's key we start capturing those kind of scenarios, and I think the best way to do it is via sort of meetings and workshops. We did initially just ask, can you send us our scenarios? But I think that was sort of misunderstood. We're not looking for technical instance scenarios. It's if there is something that needs to go to a service desk, or if it comes to a sort of at that level, and that teases out how the actual cross-party piece will work. But we'll be putting in additional sessions so we can work through that.
Yeah,
That's great.
just
Thank you.
Sorry, just to build upon Ian's point there, I think it's definitely something. I absolutely agree, it's something we need to do. I think that at a high level, there's probably, if you define everything for each individual party, there's probably hundreds of scenarios, but in actual process, there's probably only a handful in terms of some data goes missing somewhere in the chain, and parties interact and identify where that's gone wrong. So there's a few different meetings that already exist in the diary, but we'll take that away and have a consideration about whether we can repurpose one of those, or look to introduce another session to specifically work through some process diagrams and validate whether they, if everybody feels they would work it as designed. So.
Hello, Elaine.
Yeah, hi. I've got 2 points now. I think my first point was on Kerry Ann's question around the contact details. So I think I'm right in saying initially when contact details were asked for, it was in relation to service desk, but now you're looking for service desks for technical incidents to be raised or responded, but you're also looking for help desk contact details. So am I right in saying you're looking for 2 contacts now for LDSOs, which is slightly different from the first ask, which may be why you maybe didn't get the return that you were looking for.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll look at that form again, Elaine, to make sure it's more, it's clear what we're asking for.
Okay, and my second point was just in relation to what had been discussed around the scenarios, and I think it would be really useful because even looking at the test scenarios in this document, I'm not really understanding why some of those are pointed to the LDSO, and it may be my misunderstanding of what those incidents relate to. But I think the sooner we can get something in around scenarios, what would maybe help clear that up.
Absolutely, and that is something. Like I said, we've got a session tomorrow morning, myself and Ian, to kind of look at what's been fed back initially. So we can definitely do something on that.
Yeah, and I think it's important that it's if we label it as scenarios, and not just sort of, because if you start going into instance scenarios, then you start getting to that level. Just scenarios on how we all interact. If we could start from that, and then we can build on it as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions at this point? Oh, hi, Neil.
Hi, Mark. Are these new scenarios going to be in the document which you're issuing, or is that for later?
It'll be separate because they're going to be evolving, Neil, over a period of time. So they'll be constantly getting updated. But we will definitely share them with people.
Okay,
I certainly,
thank you.
sorry, I'll defer to Ian as well, but that certainly wasn't my intention to put them in the document.
We did the thing. I think we said it on the last tour week. Ideally, if we could put these scenarios in the operations manual, that would be great. But it depends how many that we come up with. So it might be a separate document, but we've got to gather them first. But ideally, they should all be in the operations manual. But depends how many there are and the level of detail and whether it should be a separate document or not.
Okay.
Hi, Elaine.
Hi. So in this document, you have Appendix B, instance scenario examples. So are they coming out of this?
Let's just scroll down. I'd have to defer to Ian on this one.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I wasn't going slightly. I was just having to think. It is a very good point. So I originally, when I was pulling this document together, I just wanted to get some example scenarios in the appendix. Again, just so we can start to get thinking on what kind of scenarios and the interactions that we're looking for. But these are examples, and I think we need to get to that level of detail for the coordination piece is the most important thing here. So I think we could leave these in this document for the consultation as example scenarios, but then I think these and others would drive sort of the coordination piece for the other scenarios, which then would be documented in the operations manual or a separate document depending on the size.
So if you're keeping these in here, are you happy to receive comments on those?
Oh, yes,
examples
definitely.
Then,
yes,
yeah, okay.
Definitely, thank you.
Jason.
Does that mean that the next group of scenarios are what are needed to be defined before you conclude on what the test scenarios are? And does that mean we need this version of the service operating manual before we go it? Is there a dependency from that into any other deliverables? I'm just trying to, I guess I was thinking that the instance scenario examples you've got in the appendix here were the ones that were going to be used elsewhere. And it sounds like there's a different set of scenarios now.
I think it'd be a more expanded set of scenarios, and I think both us gathering those expanded set of scenarios and us working on the test cases does work hand in hand.
Sorry, did I answer your question, Jason? It seems to have gone very quiet at my end. I don't know if there's a problem.
No, I was just digesting what it means.
Sorry.
Because it seems so. Test cases are one thing. Test cases are derived from test scenarios. So I was just trying to work out what's where really in the deliverable set.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to take it offline with you, Jason, but a couple of my guys have been looking at the scenarios last year. I don't think they vary too much from, I don't think the list is going to expand significantly in terms of the when you look at a test case or the interactions principally fall into one of about 5 or 6 pots. There may be lots of mini variations of that, but generally it's data not sent, data gone missing. One of the fundamental chunks fallen down. So, let's say we've got a session tomorrow, which you're welcome to join, where we're going to reflect back on what we found going through the design models and trying to pick out what the scenarios are. And then, yeah, happy to feed those back and discuss them with everyone else, either on Wednesday or a date next week. Kerry?
Yes, so I think there could possibly be a change on the basis of the feedback that you may receive based on the scenarios that's in the documentation. In addition to that, certainly from a spend perspective, we've also sent you with some further scenarios that we've come up with as well. Whether they're relevant or not, I don't know until we've reviewed them. So I think that's why a session that's been spoke about in terms of going through all of these scenarios that we have and understanding whether those scenarios actually do need to then partake as part of this documentation or whether we can exclude them or not is relevant. And I think we need to do that piece of work to actually understand ultimately what is going to go in through, you know, the different areas to allow us to be able to then formalise our own plans.
Yeah, understood. So I think we need to be cautious in that there's, and I had this pointed out to me when I first joined the program a couple of weeks ago, there's kind of like two different contexts for scenarios. So there's the operational kind of final set, which will help guide decisions, which let's say will be almost a live document. And as new things are discovered, it may well evolve. But there's also probably a more isolated set which cover the core areas which we're looking to put into testing. So definitely need to work through those, definitely need to validate those. And also the discussion is one that will probably have evolutions where we identify new things as we go into live and do other processes. Jacqueline?
Hi, hello. I have a question on this table. So wouldn't it be worth putting onto this table whether you think what your opinion of what type of trigger that is, i.e. whether it's something that's going to be going to our help desk or whether it's something that you need our service desk input to?
Hi.
Yeah, we can.
So I think so I think that's the level of detail we need to get to in sort of the next steps. So we have using, and again, these are just example scenarios. So we have the trigger, but then this is why we need to look at those sort of overall scenarios to see who's contacted and what sort of cross-party over the desk or help desk, and how that, I think we need to get to that next level of detail we don't quite have yet, although we are still working on it.
Okay, very good. I have another question then. I just wanted to ask, you're asking for a service desk contact as well as a help desk contact, and David can correct me, but I don't know that you'll be able to contact our service desk directly.
Well, the only mechanism Jack will have is for that email. So I can't remember what ours is, but let's just say it's UKPN help desk, support service desk, whatever it is. That email will go to Elexon, and if there's an issue, a technical issue that they believe is for us, they will email that. That will then create an alert in our system, and we will then interface off to Elexon to say, okay, where's the ticket? What do I look at? Give me the. I presume it will be in the email. My understanding, John, was when we spoke on Friday, the details of the issue will be in that email. That's my understanding. What you're going to provide, because we're not going to log into portals again. I'm mindful of the CSS solution. It's very different to that. You're just going to pass us the details that you have at the time in the email with a reference number. That's all you're going to give us. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
But again, it goes open to you tell us how we communicate with you. So it's via email. It's via email. If you say ring this number and that's the only point of contact for us, we will call that number. Like I say, it's what you have available for us to contact you.
Yep.
Okay, that's lovely.
And then in that instance, yeah, we would create the most likely scenarios. We would then create, after initial quick triage, we will create a ticket in our own system, manage it accordingly in our own system to a closure, and then update Elexon accordingly via email. So it's sort of, we keep it all in house. There's just a bit of an email dialogue to update the interested party, which in this instance is Elexon. And then my understanding is Elexon would act as the middleman to update, let's for argument's sake, say there were suppliers downstream impacted. They would then be updated via Elexon. We don't, Elexon kind of the middleman in the process.
It's exactly as it should be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Some good points and feedback there. has anybody else got any more questions or anything they'd like to raise? And for those of you from the LDSO community, has the stuff we presented back gone some way to addressing the concerns that you had?
Yep, but it wasn't a massive surprise to me, so yes, thank you.
Spoilers you had before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, lots of thumbs up there as well, so pleased to see that, and I'm glad we've been able to move to address that quickly, and say hopefully it sounds like we'll get the consultation out tomorrow about incident, and yeah, you'll have until the 28th to complete any further feedback for us. Sounds that there might be some feedback around the scenario table, but that would be really helpful to us, and that's the kind of thing we're looking for. Ian or Mark, anything else from you to close out?
Nothing from me, thank you, Royston.
Royston, before we close out, can we just maybe have a discussion about what the best use of Wednesday's workshop is, and whether it is running through this document or whether it's running through the practical example that's in the appendix that you ran through before, or what the best use of Wednesday is?
I think that's a good point, Jason. I was going to reflect on it when we put up our final slide, but yeah, we can do that right now. So at the moment we reduced it because we didn't think we'd actually need 2 hours on Wednesday after putting in 2 hours today. So we've got an hour, and I think the diagram that's above this table that we've walked through previously, I think has had some fair challenge. So I don't know if there'd be value in going through that again, unless potentially we had a live version of it and we're making edits to correct it to reflect more, the feedback.
Royston,
can I session?
Can I just come in with a sort of program viewpoint on this?
Yeah.
So I think I think that generic example that you guys have got in your document is consistent with the principles that have been refined, if you like, within that we just walked through with the redlining. So maybe it would be helpful just to bring that to life, because I think ultimately what you guys are consulting on now, it's at a high level. Does industry buy into the principles that we set out around how the cross service desk processes will work? So we've got the text, haven't we, and we've got this generic diagram. So maybe just to help people in terms of their consultation, it might be worth maybe picking two examples, maybe, and showing how those two examples would be delivered in line with the principles that we've set out, and how they would then fit within this within this sort of process flow.
I think that sounds spot on, John. Yeah.
And then I think it just make sure everyone's aligned then in terms of reading the principles, looking at the process, and then if we have a couple of sort of real world examples we could overlay onto that, then I think it just makes sure that everyone's fully sort of understanding then of what this document is sort of setting out.
Yeah, well, that sounds perfect. Yeah, so we can certainly get that conversation underway on Wednesday. We should have some scenarios hopefully we can pick out tomorrow, and then maybe work out some overlays before Wednesday morning. Yeah,
and then it could just be a case of sort of like, just if you guys just walk through and say, well, this is this scenario, and let's walk it through, step by step. How would it go from being identified, be raised, be triaged, be ultimately be resolved, and I think that would be helpful. And just make sure everybody's on the same page then, because obviously I'm conscious that the LDSO sort of obviously raised some concerns. Hopefully we address those, but I think obviously sort of David was saying that the deeper conversation was only really had with a small number of people. So I think if you guys could put some illustrative couple of scenarios together, I think that just makes sure that everyone's everyone's understanding then of what the process was. And I'm thinking particularly of suppliers and agents as well in that context. As they're going to be probably the main users, if you like, of these processes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, John. Nobody else objects to repurposing Wednesday for this? No. A lot of support for it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, Andrew, do you want to just pop up the closeout slide then? Okay, excellent. Yeah, so just to recap the points we just made. So following today's session, we're going to consider any additional comments and concerns. There was a couple of minor things to tweak. Once those are done, we'll finalise with the revised draft for the CPSD model and reissue it to you tomorrow. And along with that, confirm the extension of the consultation date to the 28th. Once that closes, we'll obviously review the consultation responses and respond to comments. And we're currently planning an assurance review session to accept the completed documents on the 12th of May. I think we've just agreed there's going to be at least one session in between now and then to look at the diagrams and validate those and make sure that everybody's on board and understands what's been proposed. And there may also be a briefing on some further scenarios as we develop them further. But we're just looking to look for available slots or say use existing meetings to achieve that aim. Any questions on any of that? No? Okay, that's very good. In that case, I'd like to thank everybody for participation and the comments, which can be really helpful in getting us to get the revised document out tomorrow. And look forward to hearing from you on any improvements we can make or anything else we should be considering as we look to finalise it and use it to develop test scripts ready for the OIT testing. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, if there's no further questions, goodbye until Wednesday.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.